Okay, children, welcome to our today's poem, A Legend of the Northland, and Standard 9. When we talk about it as a legend, it is generally a story which we relate to our past, and we always almost like we use such kind of stories to be a moral to the coming future. And here the Northland, here a particular place is not specified, rather it is told Northland somewhere at the northern parts of our earth, or it is above in the total icelands, because in the whole of the poem we see it is too very cold, it is winter seasons have come, the days are short. These kind of references give that the land belongs to some northern hemisphere. So the story is like the fable starts with, it is with the northern hemisphere there, and it is a legend. We generally show it is the moral story, and we keep on telling because of this one you are not supposed to do this, like this we keep on relating the stories to the children, many of the stories. Here also how the poet says with a small story, and he has written in a poetic form. This poem is always also a ballad, where it can be a short stories of your past culture. In that way also we can take it, and it is a moral story as well. And the poet of this is Phoebe Carey. Now we shall be starting. Here you can see this is the longest one you have, something like, and nearly about 16 stanzas are in this poem. But it is so very nice. It is not that very long because it is a story going on, so we feel it very interesting in spite of it being the little lengthy one. Let us start the story. Away, away in the Northland, where the hours of the day are few and the nights are so long in winter that they cannot sleep them through. This is an introduction. The story did not start, but the we start with once upon a time the land was so. As the introductory part goes on, the same way here also the poet has started with a small introduction how that land looks like. Away, away, somewhere far away in the northern hemisphere, a particular place is not specified here, so away, and the hours are there, and he says it is the days, the length of the day is so very short and the nights are too very long. If nights are too very long, can you sleep the whole of the time? We have a particular time period, we sleep and immediately we wake up. And if the nights are long, are we going to sleep the whole of the long night? And in the northern hemisphere we have the differentiation, as in the middle of towards the equator and all we have 50-50% to be our days and night, but it is not like that at the poles. The poles, the days are sometimes long, the nights are sometimes long, and here the days are very short and the nights are very long. In such places this story has taken place. This is the introduction he has taken. Second paragraph, stanza, sorry. Where they harness the swift reindeer to the sledges when it snows, and the children look like bear's cub in the funny furry clothes. And it is in that place where lots of snow. And what is the transportation, the mode of transportation they have? The sledges. And they use the animals there, reindeers. And harness, they tie the reindeers one after the other with a particular kind of setting, and they have a small vehicle behind on which they keep on traveling in those snowy areas. In those places the story has taken place, in such kind of place. They tell them, the next one, they tell them a curious story, I don't believe it's true. And yet you may learn a lesson if I tell the tale to you. There is a moral to come. Whether the story is true or false, that is not the important point here. But what is the end of the story and what is the moral you have to get out of the story is more important. So he says whatever the story they are going to say, I don't believe this, it is not true. But after I complete my story, then you will remember okay, what is the moral I have to learn from this, and children, what is that we are supposed to teach. Next one. Once when the good Saint Peter lived in the world below and walked about it preaching just as he did, you know. Good Saint Peter, he was the follower of Jesus Christ. So it is a long back, and the stanza starts with once when the good Saint Peter lived. The story is, as we start a story, once upon a time, but this is a poem, so he gives a cut short there, and he gives a rhyming scheme. So once, when the good Saint Peter lived in the world below, when the world was going, at that time when he was living, the story was of that time, which was related to that saint person. And he was like, generally we see this saintly persons, the sadhu maharajs and all, they fast for the whole of the day, and once in a day they have their meal in the evening. As soon as they have their sunset, they have their meal, again they are into their preachings. Preachings are, they go with the talks of religious talks, they are involved into that one. He also, the whole day long, he went with his preachings, he keep on moving, and he doesn't stay at one particular place. He doesn't even, in this particular place, he's not going to stay. He is going to move away from there, because continuously he'll be having the preachings. So, after having the preachings, and he was moving, and the sun was about to set. The next one. He came to the door of a cottage. In traveling round the earth, where a little woman was making cakes and baking them on the hearth. He comes to, roaming, moving about, preaching, and as soon as the sun sets, whatever the place he stands, he comes in front of any of the gate or the door, and he asks for some food, because the whole day he is fasting. He asks for food, and people generally, they give the food, and and he moves off from there. He has it and he moves off from there. The same way, today it was a time he was moving, a small cottage, it was open, and he comes and stands there, and he was fasting, and he has seen a lady sitting there, and hearth is a place, fireplace, where we can cook and we can have little of the warmth in the winter season. So at that particular place she was sitting there, and she was baking some of the cakes for herself. She was preparing her food, or she was there, and he has seen that one, and he felt it is okay, I'll ask this lady for some food so that I can have, and I can go off and rest for a while, and I can go off with my preachings. So when that was just a coincidence, the time has come that the sun sets, and he was just moving, and the cottage he has seen, and it was open, and the woman there was baking some cakes. Next one. And being faint with fasting, for the day was almost done, he asked her from her store of cakes to give him a single one. He did not even ask so much. She was preparing, and some of the stock was kept there, and he says he was fasting, and the day has ended, and he said like, okay, I'll ask this lady, and he asked, from the whole of the stock, just can you give me one? Very simply, he just asked, can you give me one? Now see here, the actual story has started. Now, the next stanza. So she made a very little cake, but as it baking lay, she looked at it and thought it seemed too large to give away. Okay. From the stock, she was like a kind of, the lady's attitude has been shown here, the woman's attitude has been shown here. The woman, the lady, she was preparing the cakes, and she had a stock of the cakes there. And as the man asked for one single one, she did not take one, and she did not give. Rather, she wanted to prepare a separate one for the person. So she takes a very little dough. She did not want to give whatever the dough she has prepared with, whatever the cake she has prepared, that she did not want to give. For giving, she thought of, I'll take a small dough so that I can prepare a small cake and give to the person. So I can prepare a small, she has taken a small dough, and she can prepare a small cake and she can give to the person. So here the attitude of this lady has been shown here. She is somewhat like little miser. The miser attitude has been shown here. Next one. Therefore she needed another, and still a smaller one, but it looked, when she turned it over, as large as the first one done. Okay, in the above one she says that she has taken a small dough and she prepared a cake, and she was about to, like when she says that, she said, this is very big, I cannot give this one. So immediately she takes one more dough, which is still more smaller than the first one. And she prepares a cake, and she says, I cannot give the larger one, and I want to give a smaller one. So she takes a second time, she takes a small dough. and she wants to prepare. And once it gets prepared, the baking has been done, it gets prepared, again she feels the same. It is looking as same as the first one. So she did not feel like even parting it. She did not feel like even giving that one. Then she took a tiny scrap of dough and rolled it flat and baked it thin as a wafer, but she could not part with that. So third time, again she has taken a dough, small dough and a scrap of dough. We can say it is the last one, whatever is left, she started taking it and she made a very small dough. And she started putting it, she started spreading it, and she spreads it to such extent, very thin wafer level. Wafer is a very thin surface. As you have the ice cream cones, they are so very delicate and very less of your dough is put inside. So here she takes that dough and she prepares and she spreads it in such a way it becomes a thin layer, and she makes the this thing, cake. First she said, my cakes that seem too small when I eat of them myself, and yet too large to give away, so she put them on the shelf. When she sees the third one, that also she feels it is also very large to give to someone. And she gives a justification for herself, saying that it is whenever I eat the cake, whenever I prepare a cake for myself, I feel they are very small. And the same cake, when I feel I should give it to someone, it seems as if it is a big one. So she is not able to depart this. She even closes whatever she felt like preparing for the saint. Those all she collects, she keeps them, she stores them, and she puts them top on the shelf. She did not want to give those anything, and she did not give a single piece of cake to the person, saintly person. Next one. Then good Saint Peter grew angry. He was waiting for the first one, he waited. For the second one to happen, he waited. And the third one also was going on, he waited. And finally he did not get anything. And she has taken all the things and she had secured it for herself. He gets angry. For he was hungry and faint. And surely such a woman was enough to provoke a saint. Provoke, to instigate to do something. He was very patiently waiting, and he was in a situation, he did not have food, and he was in a fainting situation. He was not having any strength and feeling very weak. The weakness was in his body, and he was waiting patiently, and finally he did not get anything. So he gets angry and he says, the woman, whatever the deed she has done, the act she has done there, she was acting as if she was preparing, and she did not give the first one, and the third one also she did not give. So that act instigated the saint to get angry. Generally the saint people don't get angry, but these all things whatever have taken place made him angry. The next one. And he said, you are far too selfish to dwell in a human form, to have both food and shelter and fire to keep you warm. You're such a selfish woman. And I don't think such selfish people, you're in a wrong form. You have taken a human birth, so you are not you don't have the right to be in a human form. You are in a wrong form. And you should not dwell, you should not move in this form, because humans, we feel like they are supposed to exhibit that kindness. But this lady is not exhibiting such, but she's too very selfish. That is what he started talking to the lady, saying that you're not appropriate person to dwell in this particular form, taking a human life, and you have everything. You have food, you have shelter, you even have the fire beside you to keep you warm from in this winter season. So you have everything comforting your life, but still you are so very selfish. So you are not right, you don't have the right to stay in this form, human form. Next one. Now you shall build as a bird do, and shall get your scanty food by boring and boring and boring all day in the hard dry wood. This stanza is a curse. He gets angry, and these saintly people generally when they get angry they curse. They give a curse onto us. So this stanza is a curse. and he says you are not fit for. Freely you have got this nice shelter, freely you are getting the food, everything is in your hand. So from now on you should not get anything freely as the birds do. They struggle so much to build their nest. So that nest how they build, their shelters how they build, in that way you are supposed to have your struggle. And you are supposed to even dig, bore and bore. You are supposed to dig something for securing your food. Continuously there should be a work for you. So I am cursing you that you should be digging for your small scanty food. Small quantities of food. You have so much of food here, but you could not give a piece of cake to me. So you should be in a form that you should be continuously digging for your food, and only little bit of food can be achieved, and the whole of the day you should be doing that work. Then up she went through the chimney. Like a bird you should do. So the result comes here. Then up she went through a chimney, never speaking a word, and out of the top flew a woodpecker, for she was changed to a bird. As soon as he cursed, as the curse ends, immediately she was sitting by the hearth, and you have a chimney, the smoke going away from that place. She just went off into the chimney, and she comes out from the chimney, and it was finally a bird flying off. The woman got turned into a bird and she moves off from there. She had a scarlet cap on her head, and that was left the same, but all the rest of her clothes were burned, black as a coal in the flame. She was wearing a dress, something she was wearing, and she was wearing a red cap, brilliant red, bright red cap. When she becomes a bird and she goes off from the chimney and flies off out of the chimney, that red cap is still on her head. That is, the scarlet color cap is still on her head. And the clothes she was wearing when she was traveling through the chimney, it got burnt like coal and it becomes black. So the woodpecker also, it has a small red color, the thing on the head, and the rest of whole of the body is dark black. So to relate that this is the lady, that red cap stays on her head. So we can refer to that story, refers to this woodpecker's story. The last stanza here, and every country schoolboy has seen her in the wood where she lives in the trees till this very day, boring and boring for food. And this story goes on and on in this way. Everyone, all the children in the rural areas know the story, their grandparents, and it is verbal to verbal, it keeps on moving. So everyone knows, and whenever they see these birds, they say, oh, this is that old lady, that bird is here. That way they relate. And the moral of the story comes, you should not be a greedy person. Being a human, you should be so very caring, and you should have that attitude. You should have the attitude to help others. Whoever is in need, you should be able to. You should have that kind of feeling you should have the behavior, build up that behavior. You can help others, you can serve others. Or else your life could be like a woodpecker. Here nobody is going to literally curse you. But you should be like you're having everything free and you're not in a position to give anyone. Might be the time comes where you are not having anything and nobody is giving you, and you're struggling to get that food. So it is literally the things don't happen, but this is a relation to your life. When you are in a human life, you have taken a birth as a human, you should have that heart of sharing and have a kindness in you so that you can spread happiness in the world. So this comes to an end of this poem. Thank you.